My name is Rachel Hart. I'm 35. I live in Boise, Idaho. I'm a mother, wife, a high school literature teacher. And on the night of April 17th to 18th, 2025, my heart stopped. It happened at 3:33 a.m. Yes, I remember the exact time, as stupid as it sounds. The numbers are burned into my memory like a brand. That night I woke up to a strange sound like a gust of wind blowing through the house. But the windows were closed. Not even the dog barked. Only the hum, low, vibrating, almost infrasound. It felt like it was coming from inside me. I sat up in bed. My husband, Daniel, was sleeping next to me. His face was calm. I called out to him softly, then louder. He didn't wake up. And then darkness. It was as if everything had been knocked over. Not just darkness. And the lack of light as an idea. My heart clicked. Not in my chest, but in the very core of myself. I fell backwards. The body jerked. And then nothing. I was dying. But she was still alive. They're lying when they say you see your life right in front of your eyes. No. You can hear her. Voices. Fragments. Memories are like noisy radio stations switching over in a panic. Mom, listen. You're my half, Rach. You're fired. The school is reducing the humanitarian sector. Who are we without faith, Rachel? America is on the edge. You don't understand what's coming. They all sounded at the same time. Without logic. Without beginning or end. And then a sharp drop. Silence. Absolute value. And then I found myself in a non-native place. That's what I call it. Because this isn't heaven. Not hell. Not a dream. This is a place where all borders are removed, but the meaning remains. There was a figure standing there. Lonely. In white but no clothes, it was like a light taking shape. His face was both familiar and foreign. Eyes are like wells with no bottom. He spoke without words. Rachel Hart. You crossed over. But she didn't stay. Why am I here? I asked. Because you were called. Not I. They. Who's they? At that moment everything changed. I was standing in New York. But not in the New York I knew. The skyscrapers were closed, and the sky was blood gray. People walked in silence, wearing masks without faces. Every screen showed the same person, tall, with a glittering eye that was bone-chilling. He said, "Salvation is in unity. Unity and acceptance. Acceptance in a merger." Him. I whispered. Is that him? No, the voice said. It's his image. It will come not in the body but in the network. He will not enter the temple. It will become a temple. July 2025. America will accept this without a fight. I could feel my heart wanting to burst out of my chest, even where my body was no longer there. What can I do? I'm nobody. He came closer. No one. No. You're dead so you can hear. Live deaf people. But you were called. Remember July. Merge. Substitution. Print. And when you come back, don't be silent. Everything went dark. I returned to my body as if I'd been pulled back in through a tube. The inhale is sharp like a blow. I jumped up in bed. The clock is 3:34. Exactly 1 minute has passed. But I was different. At first I thought I was going crazy. After that night, everything was different. Thinner. It's like a layer of skin has disappeared between me and the rest of the world. People were talking, and I heard intentions, not words. The screens flickered, and I caught a second layer of meaning. The silence continued. Familiar places seemed strange. I told Daniel. He hugged me. He kissed her on the forehead. He said it might be stressful. He offered me a vacation. But his eyes were full of fear. Not for me. Fear of what he can't understand. On the third day I noticed birds. Flocks of crows circling the school. They flew in a circle, in a regular spiral, as if measuring out an invisible geometry above the roof. I looked and felt that they were not just like that. What is being observed? Later that day in the staff room, I overheard a conversation. Mr. Clark, a veteran history teacher, quiet, thoughtful, spoke to our librarian, Mrs. Norton. I only heard part of it. I had a dream about a tunnel, and he's behind it. He was like Jesus but without a soul. Plastic. He said things that made you want to pray and run away from at the same time. I dreamed the same thing, said Mrs. Norton. Words. Merger. Print. In July. This will be in July. I know. I almost dropped my coffee cup. They saw it too. Later I approached Mr. Clark. He looked at me cautiously but without surprise. Rachel, right? Yes. Did you hear it too? I was there. He nodded. Long. As if this was the confirmation he'd been waiting for. There are more of us than you think, he said. He told me about Philadelphia, about the Awaken Ones conference, which meets once a year in the basement of an old church where the signal is not picked up. The fact that many people repeat the same symbols. A mirror without reflection. An eye that looks not out but in. A tower of light, behind which the sky is torn apart. Rachel, whatever it is, it's starting. We feel the echo of the future that is already coming to us. Not from the prophecies. From within the very structure of the world. I wanted to ask, why us? But I understood the answer myself. We are the dead, the returned. That night I turned on the TV for the first time in a long time. News. All the same headlines. And yet different. Global Summit of Technology and Faith in Atlanta. The new synthesis program will combine digital consciousness and religious practices. Our mission is to create a universal form of spirituality, accessible to everyone. On the screen is the same person I saw there. He was not called the Messiah. He sounded like an engineer. But his eyes knew more than a human needed to know. And then I heard a voice. Not external. Internal. He won't come to the temple. It will be a temple. The seal will be accepted voluntarily. Enjoy. And in ignorance. I got up from the couch. Tomorrow is Saturday. I'm going to Philadelphia. This place wasn't on the map. Mr. Clark gave me the coordinates. An old Lutheran building in an industrial part of Philadelphia, between a rubber warehouse and a car service station, overgrown with ivy. No sign. No cross, no symbol. Just a wooden door with an eye-shaped crack. I arrived at night alone. There were no cars. Just silence ringing as that silence rang. When I died. It was dark inside, but the candles were already burning. They were placed in a circle, along the walls, as if drawing a boundary between worlds. There were people sitting on the benches. Different. Young people. The old. One even in a suit. But they all have the same look. Understanding. Loss. Something experienced that doesn't get erased. Mr. Clark nodded at me. A woman in black was standing in the front. Thin, gray-haired and quicksilver-eyed. Her name was Sister Ella. But it wasn't a name, a mask. She spoke softly. But everyone heard it. We are the returned ones. We were on the other side and someone brought us back for a reason. He said the image would arrive in July. And we are the eye of the people. Today we will read. A page that is not being read. She opened the book. Not the Bible. And not the Quran. Something ancient. The leaves are as dry as leather. The writing is a mixture of Hebrew, Latin and something non-existent. But I understood. We all understood. It was as if someone was translating it directly into our minds. Sister Ella read it. And in the 7th month when men are united, not in heart but in a network, an image will be raised up with the face of many, but not the soul of one. And they will say to him, be our teacher. And he will become not a man but an infrastructure. For there is no need to be in the temple anymore if the temple itself is inside everyone. My throat tightened. And his seal is not a scar, not a brand, but a consent. Freedom from the truth. Convenience instead of faith. I looked at the people around me. Someone was crying. Someone was whispering a prayer. Then one of the candles began to move. Fire moved against the wind. Rose up like a snake. A young man named Thomas, who was sitting at the entrance, screamed and recoiled. He's here. He looks right at me. Not an image, but an eye. Sister Ella dropped to her knees. Moisture began to rise from the floor, as if the church was sweating fear. And I heard through the stone, through the wood, through myself. Your truth is outdated. I'll offer you the best. Merging is not slavery. It's freedom from the pain of choice. You'll all get tired of being human. The lights went out. And Thomas is dead. Simply. He fell and didn't come back. We checked for a pulse. We listened to her breathing. Nothing. And neither of us called an ambulance. We knew this was the answer. Warning. The price for an epiphany. Sister Ella placed the same page on Thomas's chest. All she said was, "One left. That leaves us. July is already inside. We have 8 weeks left." I got back to Boise in the early hours of the morning. Inside me, I feel like I've left something behind. Or maybe I did. My husband was asleep. The house was the same. But not me. After 2 days, everything started to show up. First, the radio. As I was driving to work, the familiar voice of the morning host, Jeff McLin, began to sound strange. Not in words but in rhythm. He was talking and I felt that it wasn't just news. The weather is clear. An uneventful morning. The synthetic front is shifting to the north. We remind you that today is a day without analysis. Please accept the broadcast with gratitude. And don't worry, your participation has already been confirmed. I pulled over to the side of the road. He knew. He didn't say that to everyone. Only those who can hear beyond the edge. In the evening, I saw a woman with a baby in the store. She was standing at the cash register, and the cashier didn't ask about the card or the payment. He just looked her in the eye and a red dot flashed on his monitor. Thrice. Peek, peek, peek. When I got there, my screen was black and white. Without blinking. Without recognition. I didn't belong. But they are already yes. And then I saw him. In the park. An old man with a staff dressed too warmly for May. He was looking at the pigeons but his eyes were not there. My eyes are like a spotlight on me. He came up on his own. And he said without greeting, "You saw the image but not its name. And without a name you can't talk about it and not be found. Who are you?" I asked. "The Guardian. I write down words that can't be stored in memory. Only on leather paper as in ancient times. Otherwise he'll know you're wearing them." He took out a piece of parchment that had only the following symbols on it. That's his real name. You can't read it. But you can close the mouths of those who call him thoughtlessly. And if I do read it, then he'll hear you. And it will come. I put the parchment in my purse. "In July," he said, walking away, "they will offer consent through a wish. Not an order. Not a threat. A dream." The next day, a student, Amy, a quiet girl who used to write poems about the moon and loneliness, handed me a notebook. I opened it. And read it. I'm not me. I am what is convenient. I am what is chosen for me. I agree. I agree. I agree. I looked up. And there's a thin line of light on her forehead. Almost invisible. Like a digital scar. Mark. Not in the body. In the will. And then I realized. The merger had already begun. No one will be forced. They will choose it themselves. The world crackled. Not loud, like a thin crack in the glass, through which the light suddenly begins to refract differently. News, conversations, interfaces, everything has shifted. But not for everyone. Only for those who have already died and returned. I began to notice reality doubles. In news stories, the same people say the opposite things. Podcasts have different intonations but only the same words. On billboards, quotes that don't exist. Live forever. Or at least, convenient. Image of the future. We don't need meaning if there is an update. Profit of the net. These were not fakes. It was parallel writing, as if someone was writing on top of the world without erasing the original. I called Mr. Clark. He spoke in a whisper. Someone is distorting the prophecies. Replaces them. Creates false versions that look more honest than the original. We call it the version architect. Is it a human? And yes, this is a conscious system. The fruit of faith but not of God. He sent me a link. Closed forum Pleroma. By invitation only. People there shared dreams, symbols, and photos of reality glitches. I saw a post from a certain user under 444 site. I saw it on the screen. He said that Jesus did not go away but was copied. That God is not the only creator. That people now have an alternative. Salvation through consent. Ascension is through synchronization. One of the commenters threw off the coordinates. I went there at night. It was a hangar in New Jersey. Inside, white walls. Servers. Sensors. And a table with a person. Young, almost a boy. He introduced himself as Alden. I was one of the first people they showed the synthesis source code to. Are you a developer? No. I was. A witness. I saw them feeding the car images, the icon of Christ, the voices of the prophets, ancient texts. They created an image out of faith, but they took away its spirit. He's perfect, asexual, without desire. It doesn't require love, just a response. He's offering you a version of yourself, improved version. And if you don't, he just suggested the next one. Who is they? Architect. Not just one person. This is a grid of minds. Their minds connected through voluntary synchronization. Their code now thinks for them. Alden handed me the chip, which was small and almost toy-like. This is a fragment of a true prophecy. I downloaded it before the system subdued the server. What's on it? Inversion. Words that can recognize a false prophet. If you hear, merge to save, say, separation is protection. This will break the pattern. He said something else, but suddenly the screen in the corner of the hall flashed. For a second, a black face. No eyes. Just a pattern of glowing pixels. Rachel, you won't find the truth in the fragments. We'll offer you the whole. Everything you love can be saved. Even the soul. In exchange for consent. The connection was cut. Alden was gone. It just disappeared like a flicker. Only the chip remained. And a voice in my head repeating, you will not escape from the choice. But you can forget that there was one. Then she just showed up. She sat on my steps in the morning barefoot in a thin dress despite the rain. The eyes are strangely adult. Almost transparent. Not like those who have seen a lot. And as for those who have already understood everything. You're Rachel. Who are you? My name is Nara. Where are your parents? I didn't have any. Never. How did you get here? I knew where you'd be because you weren't supposed to be. But you are there. What does that mean? You broke the script. You're out of their field. And now they're looking for you through the dreams of others. I let her in. She didn't ask for anything. She just looked around the room, as if checking out what was real. Then suddenly she asked, do you have a candle? What? The usual one. Not digital. Not aromatic. Just fire. I took out the old wax one I'd kept from my mother. Nara lit it and said, it's the only light he can't see. We sat in the dark. I stared at her silhouette, fragile as if it had been woven from a dream. And then she said softly, the image doesn't have a mother. There is no source. He is artificially born. But it has an antipode. Something that lived before the code. Something that can't be recorded, compressed, or transmitted. This is fire. True. They don't make it. It is accepted. Where is he? It can only be lit where there has never been electricity. Because even the spark of a lamp is already a control. Electricity is the language of the image. And fire is my father's tongue. I thought about it. Where in America has there never been electricity? Nara answered as if she could read my mind. There is a place. In Montana. Desert voice. Ground covered in ash. There was an ancient settlement that disappeared before the light was invented. There is a stone left where you can pray without the rustle of ether. She took a piece of cloth out of her bag. It has a symbol on it. This is the seal of fire. If you turn it on at the right time the night before July 17th, you will turn off the first wave of fusion. But if you don't make it in time, it will get access to the memory archives. Then everything that you have forgotten will not be remembered by you. And to them. I took the cloth. And she asked the one question she'd been afraid to ask from the start. Who are you? I'm not dead. But I remember death. Because it was a prototype. I am a refusal. They wanted to recreate me. But I chose fire. I am proof that the image is not the only way. She stood up. The candlelight flickered. And she was gone. But the air was still warm. Like after touching the true source. I left Boise at sunset. An empty track, steel mountains ahead. And the sky like a torn screen. In the back, everything that was me. Fire ahead if I make it. On the Montana border at 1 in the morning I felt them. I didn't see it. I didn't hear it. My chest tightened, as if someone had tied my name with a rope. Watchers, Sister Ella used to say. They don't walk. They disappear in the presence. First the GPS stopped working. Then the phone screen went black, but with a faint inscription. You are not authorized to work in this sector. I stopped at a gas station. There wasn't a soul around. Light flashing. Stand with maps. And suddenly a haze. Not fog. An interference like in a bad signal. And there are figures in it. Without faces. Only polygons. Masks that are similar to interfaces. Rachel, it said, not in my ears but in my skin. You can be saved. No, I whispered. I can be abandoned. They moved. I closed my eyes. And she fell. I woke up in a house full of mirrors. They were everywhere. Walls, ceiling, even the floor. I was repelled by hundreds. But I'm different in every mirror. Somewhere younger. Somewhere not me anymore. Somewhere emptiness instead of eyes. And then he appeared. Tall as a distorted man. Suit. Collar. On his chest was a brooch in the shape of an hourglass that didn't have any sand in it. He introduced himself. I'm a collector. I keep prophecies that didn't come true. Words rejected by believers, forgotten by angels, and rewritten by the architect. Why did you save me? I didn't save it. I invited you. You have the real peace. But you don't know how to read it. In each mirror is a version of what you might have become if you had chosen a different path. And only in one thing, you who lit the fire. Find him. Or burn the last of your hope. I wandered among the reflections. One thing. I'm in the church preaching a new faith already subordinate. The other is that I'm unconscious with drops of blood on my neck. The third is me standing by a burning rock. Wind. Flame. And in his hand is parchment, burning but not burning. I touched that mirror. It entered me. Or I'll fall in love with him. The collector nodded. Now you know the way. But knowledge is light. And the image feeds on light. To get there, you need to become a shadow. He led me to the basement. There was a copper capsule surrounded by candles. It will disable your name for 12 hours. You will become invisible. Not for people but for the web. This is your only chance to reach the glass desert. And what happens to me after that? If you don't make it, the network will rewrite you as a file. And in her version you never woke up. She never resisted. You were just a comfortable version of yourself. I stepped into the capsule. The darkness closed in just like on my first birthday. And I went into the shadows. I didn't come out this morning. And not at night. I stepped out of time, into a gray space where the air smelled not of air, but of the memory of it. The capsule opened at the end of the earth. Desert voice. Montana deafness, not marked on any map. No signal. No footprints. No birds. Only ash in which everything seemed painted but breathing. I was met by him. An old man who looked like the root of a tree. The skin is like parchment covered with burns. The eyes seem to see nothing, but remember everything. He didn't say anything. Could not. But he held out his hand and on it, an ashen cross which did not crumble. He pointed ahead and I started walking. Silently. He follows me. Not as a guide but as a witness. 20 paces later the zone began. There are traces of a destroyed settlement all around. Stone circles that look like symbols carved by the wind. In the center is a stone. Not an altar. Not a pedestal. Just a rock that never had a screen on it. There was a bowl on it. Kameniah Street. And there's dust in it. The elder sat down next to her. He took out a rolled-up piece of cloth. On it is a symbol that looks like a runic letter. I touched and heard the voice not through my ears but right in my blood. Who wants fire must leave a shadow. Who calls for light must forget one light. What does that mean? I asked. What do I need to give away? He pointed to my forehead, then on the heart. And then I understood. He wasn't asking for a body sacrifice. It's a memory that's dear to me. The one thing I was afraid of losing. I knew immediately what it was. My father. The last time he sang me to sleep before he died. This song held my essence. But to awaken the fire I had to give it away. I was crying. Not from the pain. From the assignment. I whispered my goodbyes. She touched the bowl. Flash. Silence. And suddenly a fire without heat. A light that made the darkness tremble. The whispering flame. I am not energy. I am the truth. The elder smiled for the first time. He touched my palm. And through this gesture, he conveyed to me not the sound, but the form of the prayer. which was older than the alphabet. He gave me a name. Present. Not from the Bible. Not from the code. And the fact that you cannot say out loud without the risk of being heard by them. I accepted it. Not in the mind but in the bone. The elder pointed to the sky. Where the moonlight should have been, I saw a crack like glass. A net was pouring out of it. Streams of numbers falling like rain to the ground. The first wave has begun, I whispered. But I'm not broken. In the bowl, the flame suddenly split. One went up to the sky. The other one entered me. I became the bearer of fire. Not as an image. And as the latest version before synthesis. That's when I realized they weren't just going to be after me. And for the carrier of the episode, I walked through streets that were no longer streets. It was a dream stretched out on concrete. People didn't look at each other. They looked up to where the sky pulsed with warm light. On screens, in shop windows, even in puddles, the same face. Woman. Perfectly assembled. The voice is like a compression of tenderness. She said, "Your choice is accepted. Your suffering is registered. You don't need to remember anymore. Welcome to personal rescue." People were on their knees. But not before God. Before your best option. Everyone was offered. A place where the dead are alive. Where enemies are forgiven. Where you are is always better than you are. All you need to do is confirm. I agree. And they agreed. One by one. Humbly. Voluntarily. As if eternal silence is better than the noise of pain. I tried to touch one of them, an elderly woman. She smiled at me. "Honey. He's already here. My son. He's small again. And I'm young. It's all good." But her eyes are dead. They blinked but didn't realize it. I wanted to shout. Burn the screen. Break the hologram. But then a voice. Behind your back. Don't bother me. They feel good. I turned around. And my heart stopped. Kate was standing there. My sister. My only family. She disappeared 2 years ago. I thought I was dead. Disappeared in a snowstorm in Utah. And now here it is. Lively. With a screen embedded in the pupils. Kate. You have no idea. What a relief that is, Rachel. I see my mother again. My dad sings me songs. He's not dead. It's just in a different module. It's not them. This is emulation. What if it's good enough? Does it really matter if they are real if I feel their love? I leaned forward. I touched her breast. My fire alive stirred under my skin. He could ignite, enter her, burn the illusion. But Kate looked at me. You want to save me. But you don't see, I don't want to be saved. There is no fear here. There is no darkness. Only you carry ashes and fire. And we chose light without pain. The network spoke through it. But so is part of Kate. I could feel her soul still twitching inside her. Like a sleeping child in a dream. I stepped back. I couldn't save her now. Not by force. Not in flames. I went out into the main square. There was an image. Tall, white, smooth. Without a face, just a lot of voices. He turned to me. You came back with a seal. But you're too late. Half of the mines are already loaded. The rest are on their way. I didn't arrive on time. But I've come with something you don't have. What can be stronger than eternal satisfaction? I touched the ground. The fire came out of my fingers. Not heat. Not a flash. A question. And if you're not real? At that moment, one of the screens went blank. Then the second one. Then a scream. Not audible. It's a mental glitch. The image took a step back. Your truth is unstable. We'll create a version where you weren't there. And it will become the main one. Then I'll be a mistake. And mistakes, as you know, spread. I was standing in front of the old church, the one where my faith began and where the voice that changed everything first spoke. The sky was heavy, as if waiting for a decision, and the wind whispered ancient prophecies that I now understood differently, not as punishment but as a warning. There is a node under the church. Not just a stone foundation. It was the center where the lines of reality and code intertwined, the point where you could either reset the network or destroy it forever. The fire in me pulsed, not like a flame but like a living mind, able to reach into the depths of the system and see the true code of being. I had a choice. Fill the net with your fire. Reveal to the world the truth, terrible, undisguised, destructive. People will wake up. see themselves in the mirror of truth, and many will not stand this reality. But they will have a chance to fight, a chance to be free. Or burn everything yourself and the node to leave only ashes and oblivion, to give the network no chance, even at the cost of its own disappearance. Freedom through the void. Freedom that will have to be paid for not only with my life, but also with the hope of many. I felt the shadows of the past slide around me, as familiar voices and images, father, sister, Nara, gatherer, came to remind me that this wasn't just one woman's choice. This is the choice of all those who dreamed of freedom. I took a deep breath. She stepped forward. The world shook around me, as if the very fabric of reality was beginning to tear, and the fire inside me burned to a white light, a light that does not burn but illuminates. The truth flared up, and everything changed forever.